Good afternoon, 49er faithful. Here we are, the Friday before week one. The San Francisco 49ers are traveling to Chicago today, and on Sunday, they'll be taking on the Chicago Bears. Tomorrow, Jack and myself will be headed out to Chicago as well. Not same flights. I'm headed from Portland. He's headed from the Bay, but we will have the same destination. It's your Friday show as per usual. That means it's the Hammerhead Show. I'm your host, Rob Schuh. That's my co-host, Jack Hammer, hence the Hammerhead name. Jack, how you doing, man? Are you excited that we are 48 hours or less from football at this point?
I'm fired up. This is the best time of the year right now. The start of the football season from now through these next 6 months. That's the best part of the whole year, the whole calendar right now, and excited. Just got done doing my pregame write-up. And looking forward to it. It was good to get 1,200 words on a piece of paper.
Very exciting.
Screen, I guess.
I look forward to reading that write-up. For those of you that want to see it, the link to the Press Democrat page is down below in the description of the video, along with Jack's Twitter handle and YouTube page. You should be subscribing there just like you're subscribed here, hitting the like button here just like you would hit it over there on that channel. Welcome to everyone who's in the comments. The Gabe 209 Niners show. Kurt Papatakis making the prediction. Dwelly with 2 touchdowns. That's the bold prediction of the hour. Treasure Kisses coming in. Cheese, Raphael 5629ers always saying, what's up, Rob, Jack, Sneakerheads, and everyone recognizing those that are here. BK from the Bay coming in to say what's shaking. Kim Adams says, are you in Chicago yet? As you can tell from the backdrop on the set, neither Jack or I are in Chicago yet, but we'll be there as of tomorrow. I think, Jack, you're on an earlier flight. I head out about noon tomorrow. Very excited for that. We got Jason Els, Dan Rostek. We've got Chris Royal coming in with a super chat. Says, last weekday before football. Let's get it and go Niners. I'm sticking with the prediction that we bounce the Bears 34-14. Absolutely love that prediction, Chris. Jack and I will get into our predictions at the end of the show, but I like how Chris has gone bold here with a stomping of the Bears.
Yeah, he's not leaving anything to chance. He's going all out.
No, this isn't going to be a nail biter at the end of the hypothetical Chris is laying out for us. That will be a comfortable coast to victory. I'll be able to get a second or third hot dog if that's the case.
There you go. Exactly. Or a big piece of deep dish pizza. I don't know what they have in the Field concession stands.
Kurt coming in saying, I feel like Tyrone Biggums. You got any more of those NFL games, man? A few more NFL games. Quesadilla Thrill in the house. Spy Nick Danger. BK from the Bay already said that. Kevin is in the house. John B. I'm a camper on Call of Duty. And Moses Martinez probably going to throw a couple of shots at Jack and us. Moses loves to do that. Let's get into our topics, Jack. We got a jam-packed hour, and we want to get to it. So just a little bit on George Kittle here. Kittle missed practice yesterday after tweaking his groin on Monday and missed practice again today. What do you think? Does George Kittle play on Sunday, Jack?
I don't think so. I don't think he's going to play. He hasn't practiced since Monday. Typically, this is the kind of thing where usually when they're listed where he is and hasn't practiced, they usually don't play on Sunday. And so I think we're going to see the Flyers go without George Kittle against the Bears.
Yeah, I think so as well. Kyle Shanahan was asked in the press conference today, hey, has George Kittle ever played in a game without practicing during the week? And Kyle Shanahan answered saying, I don't track those things. So I can't accurately answer that for you without guaranteeing that I might be wrong about it. And I will say the same. I'm not going to go back and say that I actually found an instance where he didn't practice and played. But I do feel like that has happened. In my recollection, Kittle has gone the week and then come back and played. Do you have any recollection of that, Jack? Or am I crazy here?
No, I don't have it's very unlikely for players to miss practice for an entire week and play. Right. I can't think of, not even George Kittle, but I can't think of anybody with the 49ers who's done that. Even Trent Williams last year in the NFC Championship game, I believe he practiced.
Got the walkthrough.
Yeah, a little bit that week up before the game. And even so, if you go back and you watch that game, Trent Williams has also said it as well. He shouldn't have played. So, it could be one of those situations where if that groin's hurting him enough, you just don't play him.
And that's my follow-up question. By the way, Jack, I appreciate that was the politest way anyone has ever said, yes, indeed, Rob, you are crazy for remembering that way. It was very politically correct in the way in which you danced around that. But that's the follow-up is, should he play? Let's say that he feels he can give it a go. This is the type of injury, my fear with a groin injury, this is the type that lingers, that if you pull it a second time just becomes that much worse. It's typically a tear of some sort, and re-aggravating it generally means that you have increased the size of that tear and therefore increase the length of time that it's going to take to recover from it. Given the fact that this is the Chicago Bears, no game is a given in the NFL, but this is the Chicago Bears. We should be able to beat them. Even if Kittle could go, would you say that he should rest to heal it up for more important games down the line? Or would you say if he were good to go, you got to play him because you have to win every single game?
Well, if he's good to go, then you play him, but I don't think he's going to be good to go. So in that case, you don't play him. You mentioned it already. The possibility of him tearing that a little bit more, it's just too much. And they have 16 more games that they need to play. They need him to be available as the season rolls out. So if he's only going to miss this week, and even if he misses maybe the first 2 games, if they can get him fully healthy for the final 15, that's the way you go. But they're definitely going to miss George Kittle on the field tomorrow or on Sunday. That's for sure.
They absolutely are. By the way, just bringing in a little enthusiasm from Chris Royal, says balls to the wall, baby. Just excited. I had to share that excitement. Absolutely have to. Kelch Chronicles coming in, this one talking about Kittle. Back to the subject at hand, Jack. If it was the Super Bowl, yes, don't play Kittle. It's the first game. We got an entire season to go. People are already talking about the injury history and whether he warrants the contract he currently plays on, let alone the contract that he might earn next when this one wraps up. I just want to ask before we move on from this topic, Jack, when you look at Kittle's injury history, are you at all concerned about the occurrence rate? And do you believe that it's something the 49ers need to be cognizant of and may at some point want to move on from? Or is there more smoke than actual fire there?
No, you definitely need to be concerned with this. This is a reoccurring thing with George Kittle going. He hasn't played a full season since 2018. And that, I understand now with 17 games, it's a little bit harder, but he hasn't played more than 14 games in a season. Let's just put it that way. Since 2018, that was the last time that he's done that. And it's these soft tissue injuries, these lower body injuries have been just nagging with him year after year. And here we are now going into 2022, and he's going to miss. It looks like he's going to miss at least week 1, maybe a couple of weeks. We'll see.
It does feel like this is something to keep an eye on. I tend to believe that the way in which people have reacted to it is a bit of an overreaction. I do agree with you, Jack, though, that it is a concern worth keeping your eye on, in particular when you look at giving Kittle another contract or exploring the possibility. I'm sure the 49ers would consider all possibilities, and one of those could be that you explore moving on in some way, shape, or fashion. I just see him as such a integral piece of this offense when he is healthy. So long as he can limit those games missed to 2, perhaps 3 per season, I become comfortable with the fact that he plays a very physical position. He plays it very hard, and that will lead to some injuries throughout the season. John B. Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, Kittle is stubborn enough to try and play this week. Team would have to sit him down to get him not to play. I would hope that they do. I'm with Jack that this is the type of injury that probably you don't want to play through on that one. Although Kyle Shanahan has repeatedly said if he is healthy, he will go in regards to injured players. Let's talk a little bit about a different position, the safety position. Kyle Shanahan has been equally dodgy when it comes to saying who's going to start. He loves the air of mystery. When he can delay on saying who's going to start at a particular position, he absolutely does it. What does your gut say as to who ends up playing opposite of Hufanga? Do you think it is George Odom that gets to start, Tarvarius Moore, or do the 49ers promote one of the practice squad players and start them opposite of Huff?
I feel fairly confident in saying that it's going to be George Odom that's going to start opposite of Hufanga. They're not going to make that announcement at all. We'll find out when the team takes the field for the kickoff. Well, we'll know a little bit ahead of time if you're paying attention to the folks like myself or others that are there. You're going to see it if you watch the warm-ups, you'll see who it's going to be. That's when we're going to find out who's starting opposite of Hufanga. They're not going to announce anything. I think it's going to be Odom, though. He's the one that's been starting there, and it just makes sense.
Yeah, I absolutely. That's who I've got my eye on here. And you and I talked about this prior to the game because prior to the start of the show, and I want to clarify this for the listeners as well. If someone is on the 53-man roster, the actual 53-man roster, and they are an NFL vested veteran, they're on that 53-man roster week 1, that does guarantee their salary for the entirety of the year. That's why when people talk about potentially bringing back Jaquiski Tartt, they talk about doing it after week 1, such that you might be able to bring him back and not guarantee the salary for the entire year. But there is a little bit of a loophole that exists within the practice squad now, wherein each practice squad player, which NFL veterans are now allowed to be on the practice squad after the COVID changes, they can be elevated on game day. So they're not technically on the 53-man roster, could be elevated week 1, and they get a limited number of elevations that can happen throughout the year and some mandates that go with that. But it does provide a bit of a loophole. Would you expect to see Tayshaun Gibson as one of the elevated players so that the Niners have a little bit of additional safety depth going in, or will they just suit up the 3 safeties on the 53-man?
I could see them the possibility of pulling up Gibson. It just depends on what they decide to do there. It could be Gibson, it could be Dante Johnson. There's a number of different ways that they can go there because Johnson has that ability to play multiple spots. You might bring up, Johnson instead and let him, he gives you a backup in the slot. He gives you a backup at safety. There's a lot of different ways that you can go here. But I would say it's probably going to be Gibson if they're going to bring somebody up.
I'm all for promoting the barnacle, man. I'm all about that. The Swiss Army knife, he gives you depth at multiple positions. That's key. Want to bring in Rick Diaz says, hey, Rob and Jack, just wanted to say hi to both of you. Hello, Rick. And tell you that I'll be at the game Sunday. Go Niners. Hey, I hope that both Jack and I bump into you. Both Jack and I will be there at the game. And this goes out to anybody. If you see me at the game, don't hesitate to come say hi. You're not interjecting unless I'm in the middle of an interview with somebody. You come up, you say what's up, tap me on the shoulder, say, hey, Rob, I watch your dumb ass on YouTube. I wanted to say hello. That's what I'm looking for, is a little camaraderie amongst 49er faithful. All right, let's assume that it is George Odom, who I believe it's going to be. You've already said that's who you see as most likely to get the start. What have you seen from George Odom so far, and what do you expect from him in the game? A pretty suitable performance wherein he won't be a liability back there?
You're talking about George Odom now? Again?
George Odom, correct.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about this one. I think you go back. The last time the 49ers had a start without Jimmy Ward on the field, Arizona at Levi Stadium, and we know how that game turned out.
Yeah, not pretty.
You say what you want about Jimmy Ward. I know he's one of the top 100 players in the NFL this year, was voted on, and those types of things. He doesn't make a lot of big plays like, highlight reel plays, but he's solid and he limits things. And that's the biggest piece of it with Jimmy Ward. Having a guy like George Odom, you watch his game against Houston and you see him miss a tackle on a run play early in that game. You see him miss a tackle on a pass. Both those go for much longer gains than they should have. And so there's a little bit of a concern there when you look at what the Bears can do and what Justin Fields can do with his legs. And there's some concern definitely with George Odom.
Yeah, absolutely. I am concerned that Fields is going to burn us, whether it's a sunny day out there or whether it is sloppy on that field. I think he's going to have the advantage against defenders being such a shifty runner out there. It will be interesting to see if the 49ers are able to hold those plays in front of them. Let's transition a little bit to another area that everyone's eyes are going to be on. And it's a matchup, but it's not a matchup. It's a comparison because obviously Trey Lance and Justin Fields are not going to be playing against one another directly. They will be playing against the opposing defenses. How do you see this storyline playing out? Is this added motivation for each of the players? Trey Lance obviously going before Justin Fields in the draft. Justin Fields walking back statements from his wide receiver about this being a revenge game. When they get out there, do you think both of these players are looking to prove something above and beyond just getting the W on Sunday?
Yeah, I think both of them have something to prove, not necessarily prove to each other, but Justin Fields has something that he wants to stick it to the 49ers, I think. And then, as far as Trey Lance, I think he just wants to go out there and put the best game that he can on the field. He's had a lot of talk about him this offseason. And so I think he wants to go out there and show what he can do. And, he has a lot of belief in himself and he wants to show it.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, I'm loving the predictions from Dustin Kohler. He's on one today. He's called it 100-7, I think was the final score by the 49ers, and racking up the sacks on field, 7-8. I'm thinking, what, maybe 4 or 5 of those are Bosa, Dustin? I'm feeling it. Feeling it. Okay, so both looking to prove something out on the field. I could see a situation wherein Lance comes away with the W, but Fields comes away with the more impressive stat line on the day. Who do you think ends up with the better stat line at the end of the game? Regardless of the outcome of the game, who's going to be able to point to their own performance and say, hey, I did the best that I could?
Yeah, I think when you look at the numbers wise, it's probably going to skew a little bit more towards Fields. But at the same time, it's going to be interesting because I think both these teams go about their business in a similar way. We don't really know totally what Chicago is going to be yet because we haven't seen them. This is the second year in a row the Niners are opening against a team with a new coaching staff, so you don't really know exactly what you're going to get.
It's unpredictable.
But, their offensive coordinator comes from Green Bay. They have a fullback this year, and there's some familiarity there because the schemes are similar. So that's why I say the only reason why I say that it might be similar is because I think you're going to see the Bears run the ball a lot as well. They have 2 really good running backs in what was his name? Khalil Herbert, who was the guy who played last year, 72 yards against the 49ers. And then they didn't have David Montgomery, who was their top back last year when these 2 teams faced each other. And they're going to have Montgomery. So I think you're going to see 2 teams that want to run the ball. And this could really be a fast game, especially if it's wet and rainy.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep the clock moving. Both teams running the ball, both having some success against the defense. That game could be over lickety split. Hey, if it's raining out there, maybe that's not the end of the world, right? You don't want to stand out there soaking wet. I remember 2019, that game in Baltimore was a miserable one. Both cold and rainy, got completely soaked through. And that one was a nail biter. Didn't come out the way that we wanted. This one will, though, I feel confident. Okay, so let's go to that hypothetical. Let's say that it is, in fact, the 49ers who walk away with the W, as I think when we get to the end of this show and make our predictions, I think both of us are going to predict that that's the outcome here. Not speaking for Jack. I don't actually know. But I will say I agree it's possible that within that win dynamic, Fields still comes away with at least a slightly better stat line. If that is the case, is this going to continue to amplify the negative narrative around Lance? If Lance gets the W, is that all that matters? Or will it matter whether or not he outduels Fields as far as the national narrative and the criticisms of Lance go?
Well, for me, it's all about the win. As far as the national narrative, if Fields goes out there and balls out and still loses and Lance kind of struggles through, I think you're still going to see that national narrative be the same. The narrative will be that Fields is the better player. He just doesn't have the people around him. And Lance is, basically Lance is being pulled along for the ride. I think that's the national narrative. It's not that far off what we've heard for the last, 2 of the last 3 years around San Francisco anyway, with the other quarterback. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think if Fields puts up really good numbers and they still lose, I think that's the way that it's going to play out. Everybody's going to love Justin Fields over Lance still.
I tend to think so too. The criticisms have not been fair. I mean, it has skewed in the, hey, let's get attention to this, as opposed to more accurate reporting, which is where I would lump in what you have delivered throughout your appearances at practices is, hey, this is what I'm seeing. It may not be a wildly positive narrative, but it's not skewing it towards rumor or conjecture or anything of that nature. It is purely an observation of what has occurred. And I would argue an unbiased one, because I know you to be willing to change your outputs depending on the new information received and what you see there on the field. Want to bring in a couple of comments as well before we transition away from the topic of Fields versus Lance. We're going to be talking about 3 players to watch on offense, 3 players to watch on defense in just a moment. Nugent Enigma comes in to say, curious if our O-line will look rough being game 1 and not necessarily getting game reps together yet. Certainly the offensive line is a unit that we will have our eyes on in this one. No doubt about it. This is the time to prove it, whether everyone is out there, whether our tackles are out there. By the way, Jack, do you suspect, given what we've heard this week, that Mike McGlinchey will make the appearance at right tackle?
Yeah, I think we'll see McGlinchey at right tackle. He's been practicing all week long. He seems to be in line to make the start.
That makes me feel a whole hell of a lot better about that offensive line, let me tell you. But I will say that a couple of those other names are still some of those I want to watch. So let's get into talking about the offense. We'll just go back and forth on this one, Jack. When talking about the top 3 players to watch, again, these are not necessarily going to be the top 3 offensive performances that occur. These are players that you're interested in watching for whatever reason, whether it's their development, whether it's that they are unproven, or because you expect them to be a dominant player on the field. Who would be your first player to watch on offense?
Well, that one's easy. That's Trey Lance, right?
Yes.
Trey Lance is obviously the guy. He's that the ball's going to touch his hands. Should touch his hands every play. I don't know if the Mariners have any direct snaps to Deebo Samuel in the offense yet, but the ball's going to be around him a lot, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Lance can do. I want to see if he can manage the game. I think that's for me the biggest piece. Can he just be he's going to make explosive plays every once in a while, but can he manage the game, keep the sticks moving, not turn it over, and be that game manager that you need to win a lot of games in the NFL?
Shocker on my end too, Jack. I got Trey Lance on my list. I know it's out of left field. Who in the world is watching the quarterback on an NFL football field? Nobody. Yes, we're both going to be clued in to Trey Lance. And what I want to see is confidence out there. I want to see a guy who looks like he belongs at quarterback, who, regardless of making mistakes, which I absolutely believe, whether it's this game or throughout the season, that Trey Lance will face adversity. How does he look in response to that? Body language is a huge one for me as far as leadership goes. If you can exude that confidence, if you can allow mistakes to roll off your back like water off of a duck, that shows me a guy who can be successful in this league. Because again, you will have those boneheaded interceptions. You will have those pre-snap miscues. You will have mistakes on offense. You will have unpredictable weather at times, potentially causing fumble issues, right, with the snap. Anything that comes up, I want to see how Trey reacts to it, because I do believe this team around him is good enough to prop him up for quite some time. This defense is going to be able to hold opposing offenses, and this run game is going to be able to propel this offense. If Trey can be average to above average, I feel great about our chances. And I think that a lot of that to me is the confidence that he shows out there on the field.
Yeah, I think with Lance, it's really about just doing the little things that it takes, right? Just again, when we've watched Trey Lance play, they've been, the offense with Trey Lance has struggled to find a rhythm of any kind in both of the games that he played last year, in training camp this year. There's just been a lack of rhythm quite often for the offense. You look back to last year, there were 9 of 31, I think it was, on third down with Lance in the game, 31% or 29%. That was the number I think it was. It's just a matter of, you've got to stay on the field. And then when you get down into the red zone, you can't turn the ball over. And you can't really turn the ball over anywhere. And that's one of the things that Shanahan talked about early on in training camp, about halfway through training camp, when Lance was up and down. And he said, more than anything, it's just about not turning the ball over, because you can't win games when you do that. And that's what I'm looking for from Lance. It's, during the preseason, it was, does he get him in and out of the huddle okay? Is he going where he's supposed to go with the ball and those kind of things? Now I want to see him move the offense. I want to see him get in rhythm. I want to see the offense be able to take control of the time of possession, and just be somewhat methodical at times. It's when you watch Trey Lance with the 49ers, their scoring drives usually aren't very long, because they aren't able to be consistent enough down the field. And I want to see if they can be consistent enough to move it down the field and score points.
I like that, because the splash plays are going to be there, but those consistent drives keep your defense rested, keep the offense on the field, allow you to get the run game going, allow you to tire out those defenses and close out games successfully. I am with you on that one. We got a couple of predictions of who people believe are their top 3 players to watch. Dan Rostek coming in. Trey Lance, he's in agreement. It's a shocker. Mike McGlinchey and Elijah Mitchell. We got a lot of people skipping over to defense in the chat here. Just FYI, we're not there yet, but I'll bring it in. Moses Martinez says, Rob Schuh, one thing I'll keep a watch out for. No, not defensive backs. That would have been my guess. But can the defensive line keep Fields contained? Greg Thames is all over Bosa as the player to watch. We will get into that defense. People are absolutely chomping at it. People want us to talk about the Rams too. So let's just say the Rams didn't look good, but we'll get into that. We'll touch on it a little bit. I take some solace in the fact that the Rams did not win last night and kind of got stumped. Jaguile56, sneakerhead here on the channel, says, Rob's concerned with injuries to tight end, safety, right tackle is shaking my head. Just got those injuries. I swear, all of us Niner faithful, Jack, have PTSD when it comes to injuries. We, myself included, tend to freak out a little bit anytime there's an injury that pops up and we turn into Chicken Little and the sky starts to fall.
No, I understand. That's injuries have ruined the Fournier seasons a couple of times now under the Shanahan regime in 2018 and 2020, primarily injuries at the quarterback position, though. And so, this is a pretty solid roster. If this roster is as good as we've been saying, it's all off season. The injury at tight end can be overcome. The injury at safety can be overcome. Right tackle, at least he's expected to start. And the other thing I got to say real quick is I know people want to get onto the defense, but you got to settle it down. Right now, Fournier fans have a little bit of, it says right on the bottom of the screen, top 3 players to watch on offense. So rein in the, premature jocularity from the 49er faithful over there, getting onto the defensive side first.
That was spectacular, Jack. Let us continue on with those defensive players. Who is yours? Offensive. Even I am suffering from it, Jack. Damn it, my man. All right, on to the second offensive player to watch. Who's your pick, Jack?
So second offense player, we went quarterback first. That's obvious. And then I think the next one that's going to be, it's tough to really narrow it down to one. It's almost any position group, but I'm going to say I want Elijah Mitchell. We haven't seen much of him. He was dinged up a little bit in training camp. So how does he look? Because I know Jeff Wilson Jr. looks really good. And he's looked really good, at least in training camp. But how does Elijah Mitchell look? That's the next one for me.
That is a great one. I got to say, shout out to Greg Thames for the line of the day so far. He says the defense will make the offense not matter, right? So that's why he skipped right over to the defense, because it's just not relevant. BK from the Bay is like, fine, you want to talk offense? TDP. TDP is in there. I got to say, I'm going to give my number 2 and number 3 because I'm in lockstep with Thomas Littrell. It's exactly the way I have it laid out in my notes here. I go Lance first. We already covered it. Aaron Banks second, and Spencer Burford third. And the reason for me is because it's about the youth movement on both sides of the ball, but certainly on offense. I need to know how these young guys are going to be able to fill in for players that were very suitable at their position last year. Not all that spectacular. I don't think of Jimmy Garoppolo as a spectacular quarterback, but a very suitable starter. How does Lance replace him and continue to move the ball, as we talked about? Left guard, you're replacing a Pro Bowler in Laken Tomlinson. That is a stiffer ask. You're bringing in Aaron Banks, who wasn't able to claim a starting role last year. Certainly got that premature label of a bust in not being able to get on the field. But then at the end of the season, the coaching staff talked about the type of progression he had made. It seems as if coming into this season, he was anointed as the left guard. It seemed that Spencer Burford early on grabbed that right guard spot, and then injury prevented any real competition at either one of those. So it leaves me with a lot of unknown, young, unproven players that seem to have a ton of upside. Both seem better suited towards initially run blocking. So it's going to be pass blocking against Chicago's defense, whether they're running stunts, attempting to get defensive linemen inside, matching up against the interior linemen of the 49ers. And do they end up getting pressure directly into Trey Lance's face, which is always difficult to elude? Uh-oh, we may have frozen Jack. Are you back?
I muted myself. No, that's a really good group of people. Chris Foerster was asked about the interior of the offensive line a number of times yesterday, and he mentioned Burford and Banks, and the ups and downs that those two had during training camp. I find it, one of the pieces that I find interesting with both of those guys is the way that the narratives have been about one versus the other. It's been, Banks is not good, Burford's much better. But in reality, if you watch them on film, they're both about the same and very similar to like Chris Foerster said yesterday. They've both been up and down. Both of the guards have been up and down. And that's what I saw when I watched them on film. It was Banks a little bit here, Burford, I think, because he's a fifth round pick or fourth round pick, when he's a rookie, people are excited about the fact that he's in the starting lineup, but he doesn't look necessarily any better than Banks. I think both those guys are, they have a lot of good plays, and then they have a few bad plays as well. So I like that one. My third guy was going to be on the offensive line. I was going to say Mike McGlinchey more than those inferior guys, because that's the area that the 49ers offense really struggled during the preseason. It wasn't so much in the middle. It was on the outside. I mean, Trent Williams is going to get it locked down on the left side. Is McGlinchey going to be healthy enough to be able to lock it down on the right side? And is he going to be able to go? Because he looked a little slow at times over the last week. So is he going to be able to get out there and play a full game and be fully healthy and be the Mike McGlinchey the 49ers need?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just a little bit of a voice modulation going on from the connection that we have there, but I believe most of that got through there, Jack. I would agree. I think looking at Mike McGlinchey, wondering whether he is going to be at full strength, whether he has kicked the rust off after missing considerable time, that feels like a very important key to this line gelling, because it is all about the unit in its entirety and not just the individual players. How do they play cohesively as a unit? I'm sneaking in one that's just a bonus for me. We had some overlap there, so feels fair to sneak in a fourth. Danny Gray, considering the youth movement, I just want to see that speed in a real game. I'm cheating here, Jack. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, my friend. Okay, that's right. Jaguayo 56 coming in. He says, I got mine. He says, Rob, Banks, Burford, McGlinchey. If good, Trey's good. I like that call that, hey, like, no need to worry about Trey Lance. I'm going to pick the three linemen in front of him that I've got question marks about. If those three linemen play well, Trey's going to have enough time to get the ball out. So Jaguayo 56, I think that is astute reasoning for why in which you chose that. All right. Now, Jack, now that I've snuck in a fourth player on you just to keep myself ahead in the statistical counting here, speaking of statistics, who do you see as a potential statistical breakout player in this one? Could be any of the aforementioned players that you see there, or one that we haven't brought up yet. Who's going to jump out of the stat sheet at the end of the game?
On the offensive side of the ball, the guy that's going to jump out, I think you've got to go right back to the guy that jumped out on the stat sheet repeatedly last year, and I think it's going to be Deebo Samuel. I mean, the guy is one of the best players in the NFL, and I know he had a little bit of a slow start because of missing some time during training camp, but again, it's Deebo Samuel.
Deebo Samuel. We have got Pete Gorman saying Juice jumping off the page. Gav would be proud. Greg Thames saying Mason. I'm wondering if Mason is actually going to be dressed. That's one of the things I'll be looking for. Who are the running backs that are dressed? Is it going to be three, or will all four running backs dress in that one? That would be shocking to me if they did. And we have some predictions. No shocker. We got predictions for defense already. The chat is against us on this one. They just want to move on to defense. Well, don't worry. We'll do it next. Michael Martinez, though, does say Brandon Ayuk. And yes, I was going to do this. Deebo. Oh, Deebo. I like the prediction, and I like the excuse to say that Michael Irvin's Deebo chant.
I like the other version of that better, and you might know this one. It's Deebo. Oh, Deebo.
I like that. I had not heard that. That's a fantastic variety. I will work on that and bring it to the table. That will be my contribution to the song of the hour. We've got predictions. Eric Dane, Ray McLeod, Brandon Ayuk from BK from the Bay. We got Sean 951 loudly proclaiming Danny Gray. Actually, Danny Gary, but close enough. All right. Mine is going to be a grown-ass man. He run blocks like nobody else at the wide receiver position, Jawan Jennings. I'm saying with Kittle out, they're going to be looking for that big-bodied guy in the flat. Jawan Jennings, come third down, come red zone. My man just catches meaningful balls. That sounded wrong. But yes, he is going to have the statistical game that I'm hoping for. He will be the clutch player. All right, fine. Everyone wants us to get over to defense. Your wish is our command, people. Let us transition to the top 3 players to watch on defense. Now watch the chat. We'll start listing all of the offensive players that we want on there. But for those of you watching, you enjoy my cheesy comedy, you enjoy Jack's golden predictions for the game, please do smash the like button and know that all of Jack's links are down below in the description of the video. You can follow him on Twitter. You can subscribe to his channel on YouTube, and you can go read his articles prior to the start of the game at the Press Democrat. That bookmark is there. Go ahead and bookmark it on your favorite browser. Let's get into the defense. People are chanting. Let's see. We've got people in the chat very excited. Sean9519ers. Kinlaw. Maybe that's a spoiler. Maybe it isn't. Jack, who's your first player to watch on defense?
Well, Kinlaw's going to play a big role in this game because of he's replacing DJ Jones in the middle of that group. So there's definitely he's going to play
mandatory DJ Jones barbecue sauce shot for that one. Thank you, Jack.
There you go. So Kinlaw's going to play a big part of it because they need to stop the running game. I want to see what Nick Bosa is going to do to that rookie 5th round draft pick that's starting at left tackle for the Bears. That's if Bosa can get off, I think that the defense is going to be doing a good job.
Absolutely. By the way, I mean, complete agreement with Bosa, but I'm at a loss for words because NYCE 1030 comes in to say Rob is a wordsmith. Awesome. LOL. I'm on one today, Jack. Every now and then, a few things spill out. Some are witty, some are ridiculous. Most are ridiculous, if we're honest about it. All right, so I'm with you on Bosa.
You said Jack's links a minute ago. Maybe you want to go get a nice piece of jerky.
Yes. Snap into a Slim Jim. All right, let's get into the defense. Bosa, that to me is a no-brainer. Got to watch Bosa. I've predicted that he has a 20.5 sack season. Not quite Aldon Smith record, but a damn fine season, helping the 49ers to the 57 sack total I predicted that will be first in the league. In order to make that prediction feel like a reality, I would like Bosa to win the matchups that he is favored to win on paper. And you just said it, Jack. He's absolutely favored to win this one. He's going up against a lesser opponent. I would like to see a multiple sack game from Bosa to kick this season off on the right foot, show how dominant this defense could be, show how dominant a season he may have. But I am continuing on with the youth movement because, again, I feel confident in knowing what Nick Bosa can do throughout a season so long as he is healthy. What I don't know is some of these players that have been brought in to fill pretty significant roles on this defense. I have good feelings about this first one, though, and that is Sam Womack. I believe that Sam is going to continue to look like the pro that he has to this point. And I will admit that this is really the first big test for him. He has shown incredible confidence to this point. He's out there. He looks like he belongs out there, and he acts and speaks as if he belongs out there. I want to see that confidence translate from the preseason into the regular season. Just one more step, one more checkbox along the way, showing that Sam Womack is for real. Because if he is, it will feel like such a fantastic score, locking down that nickelback position for the foreseeable future for the San Francisco 49ers.
Absolutely. I think from a coverage standpoint, I think Womack's going to be an upgrade. I think he already is an upgrade in the slot. I'm just not sure about with Womack, it's going to be, does he fit the run well? And if he can fit the run well, the Ferns are going to have an upgrade at that spot. He might not be as good of a blitzer right away as K'Wan Williams, but if he can stop the run and cover, that may not be that big of a deal. They can utilize him in other ways.
Absolutely. Who are you seeing as number 2 on your list for players to watch? Well, I'm going to continue putting in votes from the audience down below on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of working my way around the roster. If you notice the way I did it on the offensive side of the ball, so I did, defensive line. I already mentioned Kinlaw and Bosa. I think when you go, the second level, I think Womack would be a really good one there. I'm going to go with Fred Warner. I know everybody knows All-Pro Fred, but I'm going with, and the reason I'm going Warner is because if you remember, the 49ers struggled against the run in the first half of last season.
They did.
Especially those first couple of weeks, they were just not fitting the run well. They gave up over 100 yards, actually, in 7 of the first 8 games of the year last year. Eric Armstead stepped in, and when they moved him inside, I think that was a part of fixing it. But the linebackers early on in the season, they weren't firing against the run quite as well. So I want to see if Fred Warner and that linebacker crew, who we've all anointed as the top linebacker group trio in the NFL, I want to see if they can fire off against the run and make some stops. And they're going to play a big role, especially trying to contain Justin Fields.
Yeah, absolutely. Fred Warner is a great one to watch because, to your point of struggling against the run early, it didn't seem like it was all pro Fred to begin last season. It felt as if Fred was getting used to a new defensive coordinator, that he wasn't quite playing at his top speed, playing to his ability. The second half of the season felt a hell of a lot more like the Fred Warner that I knew and loved from the year prior. And I will be anxious to see that he starts this season where he left off last season, because he is a tone setter on this defense. He is absolutely a leader. Players look to him for that mentality. And if he is out there flying around with his hair on fire, that will inspire the rest of the defense. I have no doubt about that. By the way, just want to say to the super chat from MILF Hunter, not actually going to put that in because it's worded in a way that feels a little bit like a shot. And I don't take shots on my own channel. So just know that the way in which you phrase that doesn't feel correct to me, nor does it feel like it's aimed to be all that respectful. If it's not intended that way, my apologies to you, but I'm going to choose not to answer it because I am interpreting it that way. But I just wanted to be respectful and call that out as to why I was choosing to pass over that. Jaguayo56 put in his three choices.
Can I respond to it real quick without making a big deal?
You absolutely may, Jack.
I just want to say, to answer, I'll answer it. I'll say, he knows how to get a hold of me. If he wants to do a show, hit me up.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. He does, in fact, have both of our phone numbers. That is absolutely a fact. Jaguayo56 says his three picks are Kinlaw, Bosa, and Huff. I love that. That leads me into my second pick. We are in alignment on that first one, Jaguayo, and you hit Jack with Bosa. He's on that. So I'm looking at Javon Kinlaw, again, with the youth movement, understanding that Javon Kinlaw is a third-year player, but a third-year player that, has about as much experience as one of the new guys coming in, hasn't put those statistics up on the board, hasn't been able to prove his value, and has been under significant scrutiny because we traded away DeForest Buckner and used that pick to bring in Javon Kinlaw. He appears to be healthy. He appears to have a serious agenda this season. I think he gets fired out of a cannon to start, but that's what I need to see. I need to confirm that he is going to play like an animal this season.
You're talking about Kinlaw?
Kinlaw, indeed.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think Kinlaw is a huge piece of the whole defense. I mentioned him a little bit earlier. I just think, he's got to show that he can be healthy. If he's healthy and can defend against the run, which is kind of what everybody's hung his hat on, I think that it's going to go a long ways for this defense, because I really feel like, we've seen him this year, that the pass rush that he had against Minnesota, twice in that game, there was the sack, and then there was another time when he broke through and almost got to the ball. I think he's primed for a strong year. If he's healthy, I'm looking forward to seeing what Javon Kinlaw can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Very excited about that. By the way, I do want to bring in MILF Hunter here saying, my bad, Rod, no bad intentions. No, that was, me misinterpreting. I'll say that there have been enough folks that have come to the channel with negative comments that are very clearly negative, and so I may be more defensive than I should be. It didn't read as an insult, but was that borderline where then I chose to interpret it that way. Greatly appreciate you coming back on, though, to clarify that it wasn't intended that way, and I will simply choose not to interpret it that way anymore. We are absolutely good. No need to apologize, MILF Hunter. Absolutely not. All right, so getting into the last pick here, Jack, who is your third player to watch on defense?
I think the third to watch is going to be George Odom, right? Or whoever it is that starts opposite of Talanoa Hufanga. If it's George Odom, if it's Tayshaun Gibson, if it's Tarvarius Moore, which I don't think it's going to be Tarvarius Moore. I think it's going to be whoever that guy is. And the reason I'm saying that is because Jimmy Ward has been so impactful for the 49ers defense. So to not have him, can the guy who's replacing him give them, he's not going to match that same level, but can he give him something close? And that's going to be big. And since you took four, I'm going to take a fourth one too. I want to watch Tarvarius Ward too.
Jack, you have just passed this segment for both of us. Eric Dane coming in to say, if neither you sons of bitches pick Tarvarius Ward, you failed this segment. LOL. I added the sons of bitches for Eric, but it was implied. It was very clearly implied there. Jokingly, it was implied. Yeah, I didn't have him on the list. I do think it is a name worthy of being watched. Absolutely. You come in, you sign a huge shutdown corner. Yeah, you want to verify that you actually got yourself a shutdown corner. Well, never fear, Eric. Jack has included him, and I'm sure it wasn't a last-minute addition. It was there all along as the fourth player to watch from Jack.
Wait, you only give me three, and I'm trying to get like each group instead of like just one, like, you know, three secondary guys or whatever. So I went with the safety, but Matt Miyoko mentioned this on the radio the other day, and I agree with him on this one. Is he was asking about like the communication of the secondary.
Without Jimmy Ward,
because just in general, because you have a lot of new guys back there. You've got Charvarius Ward and Talon Hufanga, who are two guys just in general, and then you have Sam Womack as well. So three of your five are new guys to start with, and then now without Jimmy Ward, four of your five secondary players are new. And so he was wondering if communication is going to be an issue. We'll see. I asked that question to Jimmy Ward during training camp about halfway through or so, and he said communication has been really good. D'Amico Ryan said that yesterday as well, that the communication in that secondary group has been really good because they're all working together. So I'm looking forward to seeing Charvarius Ward on the field though, because I want to see what he can do. He was so good. I want to see if he was good because he was going up against Trey Lance, or if he's just that good.
Yeah, if he's going to be able to dominate against all of our opponents as well. By the way, Eric Dane coming in to clarify that extra part was not implied. Good sir. All right, yes, let's get into it. Jason L's in agreement. Jack, exactly. Whoever's at free safety going to need to show up in this game, whether it is George Odom or whether it is one of the other fill-in players here. All right, I'm going to give you the last one here on defense for me, and that is Drake Jackson. I'm not expecting much from Drake Jackson. I'm not expecting a huge number of snaps, but I'm hoping that I get to see some impact within those limited number of snaps, because that will give me a taste for going forward this season. Now, I mean, I have to admit that the 49ers, will probably only dress 8 defensive linemen, and they have 10 defensive linemen. It is possible that Drake Jackson isn't dressed for game day. I would hope not, given that he looked like he could contribute out there, appears to be someone who you would want in that rotation of defensive ends. But if he's able to get some hits on Justin Fields or a sack, man, I will be fired up from this one.
Yeah, I would be. I don't get shocked very often, but I would be shocked if Drake Jackson wasn't on the field dressed tomorrow or on Sunday, excuse me. I'm looking forward to him too. I had the chance to listen to him talk on Wednesday during the media availability in the locker room, and he's just such a genuine dude. And I'm looking forward to seeing him, because I think he's, I've mentioned this to you a few times. He really impressed me. I wasn't impressed with him during OTAs and minicamp, but once they put the pads on and they started going in preseason, he really jumped out to me as somebody who looked really good. And then we saw it in the preseason games. I'm looking forward to seeing what this guy can do.
Absolutely. So am I. Sean 951 Niners is as well. Says Rob Schuh, Drake Jackson needs to be a threat. Otherwise, Bosa and Kinlaw will see 3 offensive linemen most of the games. Armstead also needs to push the pocket. I will say that I was tempted to put Armstead as a potential statistical breakout player for this one. I will use that as the teaser going into mine. I've been saying it since the Tuesday show. I'm making the prediction. It is one of my aforementioned players. It is Sam Womack, and it's because the young man comes home with a pick 6 against Chicago. So I'm feeling confident calling my shot here. I am Babe Ruth pointing towards the wall, Jack. Here we are, Sam Womack, pick 6 out of the gate. Who do you see as a potential statistical breakout player on defense, Jack?
That's a really good one. I go back to, I think it's going to be Bosa or Armstead's a really good one. Somebody along that defensive line, I think could eat. I think there's a lot of question marks along the 49ers offensive line, and I think those question marks are even bigger on the other side of the ball or the other side of the field, with the offensive line of Chicago. And I think Nick Bosa or Eric Armstead or maybe even Samson Ebukam could come out of this game with some big numbers.
That would be absolutely exciting. Anyone along that defensive line getting big numbers is going to excite me. Let's transition to these last couple of topics here, Jack. This one about the running back room. Really just want to get your opinion first and foremost on whether you believe my guess would be that the 49ers dress 3 running backs plus Juice. So 4 total from that 5-man room. Would you agree with that? Or do you think there's a chance they dress all four halfbacks in this one?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I think there's a real possibility that they go with three backs outside of Juszczyk. Obviously Juszczyk, so it'll be four running backs when you include Juice. But I think there'll be three halfbacks. Let's put it that way. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it be Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson Jr. and Jordan Mason over Ty Davis Price.
Interesting. That was going to be the follow-up question, whether you would predict it to be Jordan Mason over Ty Davis Price. I think that will send ripple effects through the faithful. They'll be thrilled, absolutely thrilled, because Jordan Mason is the Elijah Mitchell talk of the town this year. So people will be thrilled, but it will absolutely be another, well, why did they waste a draft pick on someone so high in the draft if they're not going to be able to use them? All right, let's continue along this vein with the running back room. By the way, to those of you that are watching, we appreciate the fact that all of you are here active in the chat. Please smash the like button before you go. We got these last two topics we're finishing on. And remember, Jack's information is down below to subscribe on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and go ahead and bookmark the Press Democrat page where he's putting out quality content all year long. If we do have those three backs playing, so let's just go with your hypothetical where TDP is not dressed and we've got Jordan Mason out there. Who do you see getting the bulk of the carries? Is it going to be a chalk lineup where the first string running back gets the bulk of the carries and it's Elijah Mitchell?
I think so. I think we're going to see Mitchell get the ball a lot, and Jeff Wilson Jr. will spell him. He's going to be a little bit more of the I wouldn't be surprised to see Jeff Wilson Jr. be the third down back, either Jeff Wilson Jr. or Kyle Juszczyk. I think both fit that role really well. You can put both those guys in the field and move them around and do all kinds of different things with them. So but I think you're going to see Mitchell be the first guy, and he's going to probably get 15 carries, and then it's going to kind of trickle down from there with Wilson and I'm going to say Mason. I keep saying Mason because that's the way that I ordered them in terms of the guys that are left on the roster when based off of what I saw during training camp.
That makes sense. I'm telling you, the faithful are hoping for it. You got Dan Rostek, sneakerhead on the channel, saying, I really hope Mason is active. I think that's a common sentiment. Quesadilla Thrilla saying, Jack, I agree. Here's the over-under. You've already predicted it with 15 carries for Mitchell, smashing the under. Zachary Couch saying Mitchell, over or under 20 carries. I'm with you, Jack. I would say he tops out at 17 carries max. So I'm going on the under on that one. I also like this one. I have no idea what it means, but I'm reading it anyway, even if it's an insult. Lorenzo Davis, Rob rocking the George Jefferson with the Kratos beard turn up. I don't know what it means, but I'm here for it, Lorenzo. And if you want to explain to me what it is, I'm good with that.
I would like to know what that is too.
Yes, it sounds cool. I'm a fan of George Jefferson, so I'm rocking whatever look George Jefferson is. I'm moving on up, Jack. All right, so we've covered who gets the bulk of the carries. Who's going to be the goal line back? If you don't have TDP in there, that would have probably been my guess. Is it going to be Jeff Wilson Jr. to start the season?
Yeah, I think Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to lead the 49ers in touchdowns this year.
I like that prediction. I've picked up Jeff Wilson Jr. on some of my fantasy teams because of the fact I think he is the second back in this system. Third down back, is that also going to be Jeff Wilson Jr.?
I think so. Based on who's left on the roster, I don't know who else it would be. I think it's either going to be Jeff Wilson Jr. or it's going to be Kyle Juszczyk. I don't see it being Jordan Mason. Ty Davis Price doesn't catch the ball well enough to be a third down back, but he's really good in pass protection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But so he's got half of the job, right?
Yeah, but I think if when you look at this group, I think Jeff Wilson Jr. most likely, if it's one of the halfbacks, is going to be the third down back.
I like that prediction. Kevin, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in from Glasgow, says it's the same as what happened last year when Sermon was named the second running back, but was skipped. I hope Mason gets his chances. I think a lot of people are looking for those chances as well. All right, we got some clarification from Eric saying LOL Kratos was the main character from the God of War games. That doesn't help me. Does not help me. I'm out of touch, Jack. Completely out of touch. All right, Jaguayo 56 with the super chat says Robin Jack over under 150 rushing yards. I'm interpreting that as team rushing yards and not specific to Elijah Mitchell. Do the Niners crest 150 in this one?
They're going to need to win.
I like that prediction. I don't like the prediction of need it to win. I think we should be able to win regardless, but I agree they are going to do it. Zachary Couch also on the over there. Appreciate that, Jaguayo. It leads into overall projections on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to drop your projections into the chat. A little bit of game prediction time. I tried to combine projection and prediction there. That didn't work well, Jack. Not a new word going to come out in that one. Just a jumble. Who do you have winning this one? I'm guessing I know the answer, but what is the all-important score of it, sir?
I have the 49ers winning, and
yes.
my score prediction is a lot different, I think, than a lot of people, at least what I've seen over in the chat. My score prediction is 49ers 17, Bears 13.
Ooh, that is a close one. That is lower scoring than many people have in the chat. A lot of people predicting some good blowouts out there. Raphael 562 Niners coming in 31-14. Dan Rostek coming in 23-13. We've got NYC 1030 35-17. BK from the Bay 27-14. Again, Jack, what was your final score there?
I got 17-13.
17-13. So he is taking the under no, he's not taking the spread, right? Because I think it was a 6.5 point spread last I checked. I had come out with my prediction prior to realizing it was going to rain, Jack. So now I'm cheating. Now I'm giving two predictions. This is even worse than giving a fourth offensive standout player. I am giving a hypothetical, and I'll tell you why, Jack, because I'm not a meteorologist. I can predict a football game. I can't predict the weather. So I'm going with the original prediction that I had earlier in the week on Tuesday, 27-16, assuming that it is reasonable weather. Little bit of rain, little bit of wind, but nothing crazy. I am adjusting it if we get monsoon weather and I have to put on this adult rain poncho official Niners gear. If this comes on, if you see a picture of Rob wearing this trash bag that cost him probably $20 over his Niner gear, then I'm adjusting it. And I'm going 16-9 in the rain if that's the case, because I think it will be a little more akin to the Washington Commanders game that we played in 2019 where people were slipping and sliding all across that field. Bringing in a few more predictions. Daniel Jr. coming in 23-0, a shutout. Jay Cruz 24-21,
right there.
13. Yes. We've got Kevin coming in 20-13. Ryan agrees, pretty close to Jack here, 16-13. Setting the edge, just says, Jack's right. I like it. You're right on this one, my friend. Henry Torres, 24-10. Let's see. He made a prediction earlier. Bears were going to win it, but he says Bears do lose if no turnovers. I'm guessing no turnovers then because Bears is losing. Jaguayo 56, 27-17. He takes the out. He says if monsoon, 20-10 49ers. Another one taking the hard exit. Gold-blooded 20-9. Jason Ells 21-13, setting the edge 17-14. Kurt says luxurious trash bag, good sir. Why, thank you. Raphael 562 Niners Mud Bowl prediction 17-9. Jason Ells 9-0. A touchdown and a safety, Jack. Sleeper comes in 20-17. Close one. J49 24-10. Luke the Don 27-10. George Soares 19-10. Ellis 10 27-17. We got them all in, Jack, right at the end of the wire. Thank you so much for being on today. This was a fantastic show. I'm going to see you in Chicago. This is, ladies and gentlemen, going to be the first time Jack and I meet in person. We've known each other for almost a year now. I feel like Jack is one of my buddies, and yet I've not shaken his hand. So I look forward to seeing you in Chicago, shaking your hand, giving you a hug, my friend, and being able to converse before the 49ers' first victory of the season.
That's right. I'm looking forward to it. I know we were going to try to do it last year at the championship game, and then I got the short end of the stick when it came to the spot in the press box. So I stood out among the people, so I couldn't move to get over to find you. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't expect that to happen on Sunday, and we're going to hook up.
No, that's what happens, man. When the press box gives you a little curveball, you are a man of the people, so you go join the people, Jack. That's the way in which you roll, and that's why I respect you as much as I do. Raphael 562 Niners doing the good deed. Sneakerhead here on the channel says like and subscribe, everyone, on your way out. That is absolutely true. Over 200 of you still kicking it with us. If you haven't hit the like button, please do hit it. Please do go subscribe to both my channel and Jack's. And thank you to Chris Royal coming in with the super chat to end the show, giving greater clarification. In Greek mythology, Kratos was the divine personification of strength. So he's saying you're pretty damn epic, almost godlike. Chris Royal with the win right there. What a way to end the show, ladies and gentlemen. I just can't think of anything better to end it on. So that's it. That's the show. I will be coming to you live from Chicago. I'm sure Jack will have live stuff on his channel over the weekend as well. Make sure you've turned on notifications for both of our channels and turned on your YouTube notifications as well so that you get alerts when he and I go live from Chicago. Hell, maybe we'll even get a chance to go live in the parking lot of the stadium together. You never know what might happen, so you want to tune into that. Jack, safe travels to you, my friend, and I will see you in Chicago.
Absolutely. You too, Rob. I look forward to seeing you in the Windy City in about another 24 hours or so.
Yes, sir. It is on to week 1 game day. We are within 48 hours. Jack and I will both be live this weekend. Until then, faithful, cheers.